Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we're going to open up a new chapter into our conversation. And this Healthy Living Podcast has focused a lot on, physiological health and mental health and even spiritual health. And today we're going to be talking with Megan McDrew, who is the founder and executive director of the Transformative Justice Center. And they house an inside-out prison educational exchange program, Empathy in Action, and Bridge to Redemption. And we're going to get into a different aspect of health. I don't know if any of you guys know about my background with human rights and civil rights, but I ran the Human Solution International for almost 20 years. And we worked with primarily cannabis defendants and prisoners that were basically locked up for growing and selling and using a plant, which we said, well, that's just ridiculous. That shouldn't be a crime. There's no victim. There's no reason. And, it happened to me as well. And so I've spent time behind bars. I've gone through the justice system, been accused of being a criminal, and all I ever did was help people. And I've used this as medicine to help people myself and many, many others. And so what we learn is that the criminal justice system is not much of that. It's really a prison system. It's a dehumanization system. It's a machine. And there's not a lot of justice in it. And if you don't fit in a certain kind of category, there's a good chance you're going to get chewed up and spit out by this thing. And most people that happens to don't survive or don't come out better than they left. And our organization, and there's many, many organizations out there trying to make a difference. And so when I heard about Megan and this transformative justice center, I says, "Wow, we're looking down the same line." Megan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Joe. I'm doing well. Talking to you from Monterey, California, beautiful place.
Nice.
Yeah, doing fulfilling work.
Well, I am really excited to have this conversation. We talk about spiritual work, and usually it's, self-care and working on, helping you to help yourself. But this is another level. You're helping people that are disadvantaged in a dramatic way. They're not on the outside with the wrong color skin or born in the wrong family. They're behind bars. They're compromised. Their humanity's been stripped from them, and they have very few, if any, rights and very few, if any, resources. So when a program like yours comes to town, it offers a hope that is instrumental in health. Like what my experience is when I was locked up, I had a strong support team. So I didn't worry about my hope. But I watched people in there that were just lost. They didn't have anybody, and they tell me their story, how everybody walked away from them over
Yeah.
time. And it's really hard to even care about finding forward progress if you don't have that. So tell us a little bit about you and your program.
Well, thank you for the introduction and for having me on your show. As you said, my name is Megan, and I went into prison for my first time as a visitor back in 2013. And I remember because my daughter was just born and she turned 12 yesterday.
Wow.
So she was about 6 months old, and I signed up for a workshop through a rehabilitation program called GRIP, which
Okay.
quite a few people are familiar with. It stands for Guiding Rage into Power. And they
Nice.
teach emotional literacy, and they do a lot of meditation is really the crux of their teaching. So I went into San Quentin my first time. I was just as nervous as all the volunteers I bring in now for their first time.
Sure.
But what happened to me is what I see in prison every week is just this shedding of nerves and this incredible feeling of comfort. in a very dark, cold, seemingly uncomfortable place. I just felt so at home with the men. They were authentic, vulnerable, really striving for betterment, for transformation, to become fully present and human and intentional. And I just beyond impressed with their commitment to change. So from there, I just started going to prison every week. I joined another volunteer program called TRUST, which stood for Teaching Responsibility Utilizing Sociological Theory. I
Nice.
had come from a master's degree in sociology from Humboldt State, actually,
Okay.
Emerald Triangle.
Yeah, yeah, we know it well.
Yes, I loved it up there. Arcata became really the home of my heart, but I got involved with some pen paling, some book writing campaigns to folks up at Pelican Bay. And my world in incarceration started to grow. And just coming from the background of sociology, I began to connect the dots, as you already alluded to in your introduction, about the social inequities that people face in society and how that predisposes them to incarceration. And much,
Right.
so understanding the conditions that lead people to eventual imprisonment allowed me to connect the dots, yes, and understand the context, and to not see everybody in society as bad or as dangerous. Because when you really understand that people who commit crimes and who harm others in various levels of violence, more often than not, I'd say 99% of the time, come from a background of familial abuse, neglect, trauma, poverty,
It's a lot more
homelessness.
complicated than just somebody being a bad person doing bad things.
It's a lot more complicated. It's actually quite complex. And when you start to hear their stories and you understand the reasoning behind what led to their behavior, it just opens up a lot more compassion and a lot more understanding, and a lot more of a commitment to not only spending time with them, but also trying to alleviate some of those issues that led them to prison from the outside. So, so that began my career volunteering in prison, and then I was hired by a community college down in Monterey County called Hartnell. It's in
Okay.
Salinas. Hartnell College back in 2016 started an AA program, an associate's program inside CTF Soledad, the correctional training facility, as well as Salinas Valley.
All right.
So as far as I know, I was their first instructor ever to go in to teach a college course.
Wow.
And I did that for the following 6 years or so at the two of the prisons. Um, I was also teaching at UC Santa Cruz at the time, so I began to bring in. I thought, I was so impressed by my incarcerated college students that I thought, what an interesting learning experience it would be to bring in some Santa Cruz students down to prison to learn with my incarcerated students.
I love it.
Yeah, so I started doing that about once every 3 or 4 months. I would choose a book for both populations to read, and then
Hmm.
we'd come together for 3 to 4 hours one time every few months to discuss the book in relation to our own experiences. And that
Wow,
experience,
that's a great juxtaposition that you can really judge not only your own program, but just you know, the spectrum that it applies to.
yeah, the students left the prison deeply impacted. Life's changed for the better. More often than not, sometimes changing their major, changing their career choice, if nothing else, just changing their minds
Right.
and the narrative that they've been taught about what people in prison are like.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, and over time, that segued into bringing in more people more regularly. So, long story short, I started what's called the Transformative Justice Center. This is a space for incarcerated voices where we work to highlight and honor the voices of people that are in prison.
Nice.
We share that people in prison have been, for almost the majority, have been victims too at some point in their life.
Sure.
We like to see them as survivors, surviving a really inhumane, dehumanizing system of punishment. when they're coming in with the most immense, insurmountable trauma that most people can even understand and don't even like to think about, the sort of
Right.
heinous things that have happened to people that are in prison, that what they need is treatment, not punishment.
Mhm.
They need help. And so, what we've done with the program under the Transformative Justice is called Empathy in Action. And Empathy in Action is an 8-week program that I offer year round, bringing volunteers from the public as well as college and university students into prison with me every Monday.
Nice.
So, I've been doing that for about 5 years now. 2 years I was under another organization, fiscally sponsored, if you know what that means.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I run a 501(c)(3) as well. I know
Yeah.
that
So I
somebody's
was
got to pay for all this stuff.
Yeah, so I was fiscally sponsored for 2 years, running the show Empathy in Action, and then about 3 years ago, we got our own 501(c)(3, operating as a nonprofit under the Transformative Justice, and continuing to run Empathy in Action. So Empathy in Action right now is just offered at CTF Soledad Prison. It's about 25 minutes south of Salinas on
Mhm.
Highway 101 in California.
And that's a state prison.
It's a state prison. It's a level 2.
Hmm.
We have been approved to offer the program inside the second largest women's prison in the nation, called the California Women's Facility, CCWF, and we're starting that in March.
Oh wow, that's
So we're
exciting.
excited to expand. It's our first time growing.
So I'm
It's
curious, just as a
yeah.
501(c)(3) director as well and founder, it's a crazy world. And how I would imagine there's a lot of opportunity for funding, but who pays for your programs? Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber only episodes that we offer to the supporters. And for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
We've been really fortunate working with the Department of Rehabilitation
Okay,
through the state.
nice.
I don't know if your listeners know, but I believe it was around 2020. The CDC, the California Department of Corrections, was just called that, CDC.
All right.
And then I don't, 2020 actually might be a little too recent. I think it was back in maybe the early 2000s is when they tacked on the R. So,
Okay,
it's CDCR now, which is California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
got it.
In my opinion, it should be California Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections to switch that around.
It's funny. So many facilities, if you actually look at their name or maybe what they were, they used to include rehabilitation in the name,
Hmm.
and then I think over time they dropped the rehabilitation and just kept the correction.
They did, yeah.
It really
Now
doesn't do either of them.
yeah, not really, but they're working on it. Yeah, and I know
Yeah,
because the CTF specifically has been so supportive of this program, and
amazing.
bringing 30 to 40 people from the public into prison every week is a lot of extra work
Huge.
for them.
Yeah,
When it comes to safety types
right.
of concerns and clearing all these volunteers. And
Yeah,
historically, I was just bringing in UC Santa Cruz students, which was a whole nother level of like radicalness.
right, exactly.
They were pushing the buttons of the staff and asking really challenging questions. And, we were skating on thin ice a couple of times. Like, they don't like their jobs questioned or their authority questioned. Um,
I get it. I
but
get it.
I appreciate the voices of students, not willing to sit down and to stand up for what they believe is right. But it's a little bit of a dance. But
Of
with
course.
that said, we have received the last 5 years, we received funding through the Department of Rehabilitation, which is now a branch under CDCR.
Okay.
They offered a grant through a couple different programs, but the primary one's called the CARE grant. It's for in custody programs offering tools and empathy and transformation, which
Nice.
my program fit that perfectly.
It's just perfect. Yeah, I love it.
Sadly, we didn't get the grant renewed. It ended in June, ended on June 30th, 2025. So right now we are really scraping by and trying to find organizations or companies, corporations, or other grants or individuals that might want to fund this type of programming that happens inside prison. There are a lot of there seems to be more funds, more opportunities for programs that offer the reentry piece.
Oh, okay.
So we are working, if we were to look at the website, we have started a program called Transition with Purpose, and we're going to start
Nice.
focusing on employment assistance,
All right.
and all of the skills that come with holding a job and maintaining stability in one's life. But my passion
Right.
is really going inside prison and working with the individuals and
There's a
bringing
lot
in.
of reentry programs out there too. So
And
that's
there are, and this program, Empathy in Action, has been said over and over again to be the most powerful rehabilitation program offered in prison.
wow.
And it really is because of the influx of volunteers that come in.
I love it. I love it.
It wouldn't be the same if it was just me.
No, I get it.
It would
Trust
just
me, I work with a lot of volunteers, and to find a project that draws volunteers, but not only volunteers, but ones that show up and ones that produce. You know, a
do
lot
the
of
work.
volunteers are just a bunch of broken people, not just, but a bunch of broken people that care, but don't really have a whole lot to contribute. And they're hard to work with. But when you find a group of people that shows up and is willing to engage and participate, you got something really good going on.
We do. I am so humbled and in awe and inspired by the volunteers because like you said, they don't just show up and sit there. They show up and shake their hands and do the hard work and sit next to them and close their eyes and meditate and then they get into this really deep material. And a lot of them feel kind of imposters, like, hey, I didn't come from a lifetime of trauma. When we're talking
Right.
about like some of
I
our,
don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
they're like, the worst thing that ever happened to me is my pet died.
Right.
And they're like, what do they don't feel like that, like they have enough. But I say, we all have loss in our life. We all have
Oh,
disappointment. We
yeah.
all have pain. And the men actually gained so much from hearing about lives in society that came from two-parent families or
Well,
that went
people
on
don't
vacations. For
necessarily
them, some of them,
realize
they never even heard of that.
exactly. People don't realize that when you're in prison, you're deprived of that connection to the outside world and
Yeah.
to connect to something real. I mean, you get media and you get whatever the they filter into there, but to actually be able to connect with real people that are sharing real experiences, that's gold. That's medicine.
It's medicine. Yeah. And I actually say that as we're closing, we close our eyes and we drop in and do about 5 minutes of breath work before each session.
Hmm.
Uh, I say, let's close our eyes and come into this space so we can fully receive the medicine that this program brings, that you bring to each other.
Nice.
It's a real remedy for healing and transformation because I do believe a lot of the sadness of our times, the difficulties and the challenges that we face often comes from this feeling of disconnection
Oh, yeah.
and this feeling of unworthiness and of not feeling valued. Um,
And prisons just
and
reinforce that on a minute to minute basis.
they do. So we enforce, like, let's go by first names.
I love it.
Let's look each other in their eyes. We shake hands at the end of each session. It's a long line, 30 to 35 volunteers shaking hands of around 8 to
Nice.
10. Takes around 10 minutes.
I love it.
These guys just have tears pouring out of their eyes. Just so grateful. Like finally, some of them haven't had visitors in 30, 35 years. They haven't seen a
Get it.
person from the public.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're so special. And I think some of the volunteers are surprised, like they're so normal.
Right. Exactly.
they're just people.
These are people. We're all people. When you strip down whatever the little things that we hang on to, we're all the same stuff.
One woman said she does a lot of prison work all around California, and she said she just came with me to Soledad. She mainly goes to prisons in San Diego, but she said, man, they're not different in any prison. She said once you take them away from their homies and you take them away from their, the guys that they're maybe trying to impress or they have to put on a mask for, uh, they're just, they're just people. They're sweet and they're interesting and I know it's not the norm in our society for men to be really communicative and emotionally available and to share their pain and to cry.
Oh,
And my program itself is probably 90% female.
wow.
It attracts the
Of course.
because we're doing emotional work.
Right, right.
It's a rooted in emotional transformation and spiritual connection. And the men that do join, they end up joining again and again and again. The few that are brave enough, because they see the real benefit. But I don't think men in prison would join the program as much as they do. One, if I wasn't bringing in all the volunteers, and two, it's available, it's there.
Yeah,
But I do have to say, I'm so impressed. I'm more impressed by the men in prison than I am most men that I meet in society.
that's wild.
And that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of them, we work on a sex offender yard. They've done some things that turns your stomach.
Yeah.
But we don't look at people from, I don't even consider what they did.
Okay.
I try to really consider, what are you doing now?
Yeah, that's
Because
hard to
none
get
of
over for a lot of people,
it is.
something like that with a victim behind it, and people go, well, they can't change. And, somebody who would do something like that. But the truth is, we don't know what really happened. And we don't know we don't know the details. And yeah, there's probably some people in there that would fit your bucket, but there's probably a lot that don't.
Well, the fact is that most of them are extremely capable of change and positive transformation, and they just need the tools in which to get there. And if it's not being provided by the prison, then the onus falls on us in society.
Agreed.
Because I believe at some point they've fallen through the cracks, they've fallen through the holes of care of some sort of institution that was supposed to be looking after them, whether it be the family or the school system or the juvenile justice or CPS or the foster care system. I mean, I've working on this type of yard for the last 5 years. I don't think I've met one man that committed a sex offense that himself hasn't been either raped or molested.
Right.
And it's just and nobody ever took it seriously or tried to help.
Right.
They never got justice. The
Right.
offender that hurt them never got any kind of justice, and then they went on to do it to other people because in their world that's normal.
Yep.
And so it just takes a lot of critical thinking and a lot of expansive understanding. And it doesn't excuse their behavior at all to understand the conditions in which they came from. They still need accountability, and I firmly believe they need to be removed from society so they don't continue to hurt people. I'm not a prison abolitionist. I do believe in removal. I just
There's a
believe
purpose for it. Yeah,
there's
prison has a purpose in society. It just doesn't need to be an industry.
it doesn't need to be a profit motive industry, and it doesn't need to be a punishment industry because I already said at the beginning what most of these guys need is help. They need treatment. They need some really intense counseling and trauma therapy and connection to the outside world. So kind of normalizes the experience of then going back out. And their sense of self is so defeated.
Yeah.
So to remind them that at some point in your life you really were a good person. And
Well, and
we
not only that, but you as a human being, every day you have an opportunity to do
Mhm.
something new.
Yeah.
And, whether you decide to put a huge effort in making it or just letting another day go by, ultimately that's your choice. And that gets forgotten pretty quick when you're in there and you're fighting for your survival and you're just living and just passing the time and all the things that happen in prison. But the truth is, if you can bring back that purpose or that awareness that you actually have a choice.
You
And
have a choice. You can change.
yeah.
You can change and you can make, once they get out of that impulsive mindset or that criminal mindset or that mindset of that kind of taking,
Hmm.
wanting to hurt and wanting to take and wanting to inflict pain for whatever reason, right? Whether it's
Right.
coming from a gang influence or from their own, from
Doesn't matter why. Yeah.
that then they can rise above that, but again, that just takes time. A lot of them, we like to work in prisons because they have spent the time working on themselves a little bit more than I think people in jail have,
Hmm.
or people at the beginning of their sentences. So it's really inspiring to work with men that are committed to what they call programming. I'm sure you're familiar. It's like, do you program? They program, right? This is
Exactly.
they program hard.
Yeah.
And if they really program, they take all the classes, they commit um to the work of change and of committing to a life of nonviolence, as much as possible.
Sure.
I believe in them. I trust in them enough to say, yeah, you could be my neighbor.
Hmm.
Yeah, I will hang out with you on the outside. You're welcome to come by my center. And that's a big thing. I have young children too, and I don't want anything to happen to my kids as much as anybody else.
Of course.
But the fact is, if we don't go into prison as people in society and try to help these guys, they're not really getting it any other way except through the groups that they form.
No,
And,
agreed.
and they said that you can only hear from other inmates that you have value or that you have worth or that, yeah, you're an
Doesn't
interesting.
happen too well.
It does, it only lifts them so much. And,
Right.
you
And
know,
there's only so much value to that, even anyways.
and they said but when people come in from the outside, I bring in lawyers, teachers, therapists, university students,
Hmm.
retired professors, librarians. Um, I brought in a TV host, all sorts of people. I mean, I've been
Oh,
doing this years. I brought in probably over 1,000 people.
nice.
When they come in and remind them of their worth and that they, at some point had their innocence shattered, and just to return to that inner child that's hurting and to work through all that pain and to come out,
Right.
with that innate goodness and remembrance of the self, that does so much. So as I said, I'm really humbled and inspired by the volunteers that are brave enough and conscious enough and rooted in the belief that people can and will change. I don't think most people in society are a bit beyond savable. I just don't.
I agree. I agree. Well, I know we're going to be running a little short on time, and there's a bunch
Okay.
of things I want to get to. And so before we get to that sort of critical line, plus just know we have a lot to talk about. I welcome you to come back anytime you have time and I'm able.
I
There's
love that.
a lot more to talk about, and I would love to go deep on any of these little facets. But one of the things I really like to examine with any guest is an example of something that was remarkable. I know you've dealt with so many people, and I didn't realize um, the nature of the specific people you were working with. Um, so maybe share a story or two about a person that you worked with that there was just some remarkable, and it could be a volunteer, could be a prisoner, or it could be you, just something remarkable that you've seen come out of this program.
Uh, Gosh. In my office, so we opened up, once we became a 501(c)(3), I opened up a physical center downtown Monterey. It's on 439 Tyler Street.
Hmm.
It's one block off the main street. We built a prison cell in there so people
Oh,
can come
wow.
in and experience the cell
All right.
and um, see artwork and read literature by the men. As I said, it's a space that honors prisoner voices and tries to get the public more involved in knowing about what incarcerated people are like.
Okay.
I have video testimonials that I play all day, and then I have a wall of fame. And the
Nice.
wall of fame is pictures of all the men that have been in the Empathy in Action program that are now
Oh,
out
nice.
in society doing great things.
Wow.
And all of them, I probably have 30 pictures up there right now.
Nice.
They've all stayed
Wow.
out, 100% recidivist, no going back.
Nice. Good
Uh,
job.
Yeah, so we support them emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We're trying to start the workforce program, but
How many of those that have gotten out that were in your program stay in touch?
all of them.
Nice. All
I'm
right.
very
Wow.
busy on my phone. I mean, they call me, they'll text. We're on Facebook.
Nice.
One of them's on my board.
Amazing.
One man was incarcerated for 28 years in a level 4 prison.
Wow.
Level 4 is pretty hard to get out of. There's so much
Yeah.
violence, there's all the lockdowns, and it's just people don't have a lot of hope in those institutions because
Right.
of seeing the low parole rate.
Hmm.
But he got out. He enrolled in my classes at UC Santa Cruz. He's in his 50s. He got his bachelor's in sociology, and then I actually hired him to join my board. He's now my secretary.
Nice.
He he had lost all communication with his children during his incarceration, and
That
he
happens a lot.
reunited with his daughter.
After 7 years, pretty much everybody goes away.
They go away, yeah. So after 30 years, he reunited with his daughter. Now,
Wow.
I teach a course called Marriage and Family. When I talk about incarceration and the impact of incarceration on families, they're usually my guest speakers.
Wow.
And the daughter will be crying and talking about the impact of having her dad gone when she was about 3 years old. And now she's in her 30s and they're best friends. And
Wow.
it's just such a cool story of forgiveness
Yeah.
and hanging on.
Right.
And he's now the director of Rising Scholars at Cabrillo College, helping formerly incarcerated people enroll in school. He's
Nice.
got a TED Talk. So it was exciting to see him go from being my college student to he joined Empathy in Action. He came back into the prison program and told the guys, "Hey, I was in prison for 30 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm out. I just got a bachelor's. I'm about to get a master's. I'm a director of a program at a community college. I reunited with my family." So he gives these guys the hope they need.
That's huge.
Um, yeah, I've seen all sorts of men. I'm just so impressed by their determination to succeed and to change the way people see them, not just as, prior convicts, but as people that can truly contribute to society.
And
Uh,
so you've been working exclusively with men. You look like you're right on the edge of walking into the world of women.
yep.
Think are going to be the difference with that?
I've been told by people, I've gone into the women's prison a couple times, so I've gotten to know the ladies as an individual, as just as a sole individual. I haven't brought in the masses of volunteers I plan to bring in, but I've heard from CCWF that the women are very different from the men. They said they have a lot more walls up,
Mm-hmm.
and they're maybe a lot more defensive.
Okay.
um, and a little bit slower to open up
Okay.
because of all the challenges they've faced prior to imprisonment. And
Men are
and
generally tougher than men to begin with.
I think they're just women are tougher than men, and they're not as quick to trust.
Yeah. For
Uh,
good
you know,
reason.
for good reason. I mean, if you've read about what happens inside women's prisons,
Oh, brutal.
they're often way more rural than male prisons. About 80% are mothers, and the way they don't get contact with their children and having to deal with all the pain in the morning that goes with losing a connection to your child.
Yeah.
Uh, the abuse that happens inside women's prisons. Uh, the one we're going into is a level 4. It's the only death row, female women's prison with a death
Oh,
row in California. So I think it's going to take a little bit more time to break the ice and gain their trust, but I have a very seasoned group of volunteers that have signed up. We've already set the roster for our spring
okay.
program.
Nice.
The volunteers I'm bringing in have come in with me at least the last 2 years. So they know, I trust that
Nice.
they've done the work. They're not new to this. And I think that's what it's going to take. So
Yeah, I
you know,
agree.
we want to connect with them and let them know that we're here outside on the outside, supporting them and wanting to, to bridge that gap. So our motto is to build bridges of empathy, healing, and insight between the incarcerated and the public.
Nice.
I don't understand why prisons have to be these fortresses of invisibility when they really should be places of healing and transparency and connection. As long as the people inside are deemed as safe, so to speak.
Exactly. Agreed. There's a balance of protection and rehabilitation. Part of a
Mhm.
prison's role is to protect society from people that would cause it harm. The other part of it is to try to fix the people that were causing people harm.
That's
And
right.
you got to do both for it to be effective. Otherwise, it's just barbaric.
And that's, and they do have systems in place. I mean, everybody gets cleared that I'm bringing in, so we're not bringing in people that are a threat. And then on the inside, we have rules around um, sharing of information,
Mhm.
personal privacy, um, everything according to the prison policies. That's meant to keep both sides on the wall safe. And in the 5 years I've been bringing people into prison, we've never had an incident at all.
Nice.
We treat the space as a sacred space, really, of connection and of healing, and everybody really honors and respects that. Um, so so far so good. I would love to see this program across prisons and across the nation. It just takes a lot of commitment from the public to show up and do the work.
Well, I'm very impressed, and I've worked with a lot of different organizations, and I know how much commitment it takes from a founder to raise something up to this level. So I deeply respect your commitment and your effort that you put forth. And I wish you the greatest of success as you move forward. As I suspected, we'd run out of time before we had time to finish talking about everything I wanted to, but I want to invite you back anytime you're able. I did want to bring up a thing that I'm just introducing now. We have a common denominator, and her name is Adonai Flores, and
Mm.
she's working with a number of different programs. And she has a group called Trauma Music Therapy, and she's working with a guy that's an inmate named Jay Wells that I'm working with as well. And she has put together a program called the 30 Days of Self-Compassion Movement that is a precursor to a program called 30 Days of Compassion. So I just want to introduce the idea. I don't have all the details to bring to it, but my company, Willow Creek Springs, has participated in a program of bringing natural self-care products um, to be made available where people can make a donation and participate in this. So I'll have a lot more um, to share as I have the details in front of me in a clearer way. But I believe you're participating in this in some way as well.
Yes, I've talked to Adonai and I Jay Juan or Jay Wells,
Yeah,
he was in my empathy program a number of times
nice,
and has been a facilitator, and then he just created a rap for us that's in our documentary.
nice, nice,
Yeah, we do have a film coming out about the program. It's called Going Inside.
nice.
We're in 9 different film festivals.
Wow,
We also have a YouTube station that plays some testimonials from the documentary under the Transformative Justice Center in Monterey County. And you can hear Juan or Jay Wells rap in a bunch of those.
that is cool. I love
I
it.
see him in prison almost every week. I'll tell him you said
No
hi.
kidding. Yeah, absolutely. I talk to him generally weekly as we're organizing this program and working together. I've been working with him for a good year. He works with my aunt Nancy, and I have a cousin that's locked up there as well, Nicholas Smith, and so
Okay.
he's probably in a different unit or something. But I know he works with Jay and or
I'll
Juan.
ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jay was our boom operator for the documentary.
Oh,
So you
nice,
can see him filming actually in the film
nice,
too.
excellent,
Yeah, he's
excellent.
a great guy. He's very talented.
Well, Megan, is there any other contact information or anything you want to share before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, yes, Joe, thank you. So if people want to get in touch, the website, easiest one to remember is empathyprisonprogram.org. It's just empathyprisonprogram.org. My name's Megan McDrew. People can go on the website. If you hit contact us, just fill in the bubbles there, and I'll be the one to respond. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We're under Empathy in Action. And then, as I said, the YouTube station is the Transformative Justice Center in Monterey County. And we have around 12 videos up there
Nice.
of incarcerated people talking about their lives. And it's just such a beautiful way to show what they're actually really like, and not just these savages beating each other up and these violent films that we see through shows like Lockdown.
Right, right.
So I've worked really hard and raised the funds to be able to bring in filmmakers as much as we did,
Nice.
in order to share these testimonials and to show that people in prison are so capable of all sorts of wonderful things, and deserve to have a voice, even though they've had some history of wrongdoing. That's in the past. We want to focus on what they're doing in the present and what they can do in the future. So we create a society that's rooted in forgiveness and understanding, and transformation and growth. Because a lot of people in prison are just wasting away when they could be doing so much good out in the world, just like you are.
Exactly. Well, I'm excited. Working with Jay, I'm dealing with my health issues right now, so I've had to put this a little bit on hold, but we're working on bringing a garden program into the prison as well. So through my nonprofit Gardens of Hope. So we got some things in the works. I just got to
Love
get
that.
my resources together, and it just takes a lot of effort and stick-to-itiveness. And so I deeply respect all that you've done, and I look forward to bringing you back here to talk more about it.
All right, Joe, I look forward to it. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks to all the listeners, and please check us out on empathyprisonprogram.org.
Beautiful. This has been another episode of A Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and thank you for all your support. We'll see you next time. This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.